Hi, my name's Andrew. If you don't know who I am, I'll tell you a bit about what I've done with nutrition and athletics and some of what my clients have been able to do. And then I'm going to teach you a model of what I coach my runners to do. And we have breakthroughs in performance that are quite astounding. People taking an hour off of their marathon in 9 weeks. And I'm going to tell you how we do that. And there's really 3 parts to it. So we're going to talk about nutrition. We're going to talk about the structure of your training. And then the third part of this is mindset as well. So how many of you are runners? Okay, how many of you are not runners at all? And tell me what you're most interested in learning, the non-runners. Recovery. Okay. Muscle building. You know, you came to the right place. Skinny distance runners. We'll focus a lot on recovery here. Are you guys interested in learning about structure of training as well? Okay. And we'll spend a lot of time on nutrition. I'm 40 years old. I've been running since I was 11, and I've done basically everything. I ran track and field for years and years. I ran on the road a lot, marathons, half marathons, lots of stuff on the road. I now live on the trails, and I run exclusively trail ultra marathons. So an ultra marathon is generally defined as something longer than a marathon, which is 26.2 miles, but some of these go way longer. So currently I'm recovering from, we're gonna talk about recovery on this. I'm recovering from a 300-mile race in April, continuous race that was in the desert in Arizona. Gun goes off and you just run until you're done. It took about 6 days. The winners did it in about 4.5 days. There's a lot of challenges that come up there. There's challenges with nutrition, and you actually start recovering on the run while you're going, which is something that you don't normally do in most of your sports, right? You do your activity, then you go home and recover. And you can sleep and wake up and you've recovered, but there's no sleep, you just go. So we have to learn how to recover on the fly as well. I've qualified multiple times for a Boston Marathon. I've run that a number of times. I have a couple of course records on the really long stuff like 12-hour runs. And let's bridge this into nutrition a little bit here. So I've been vegan for 12 years, but running for almost 30. And there was a big performance jump that happened after turning vegan, but it may not be as much as you think at first. Because how many of you went vegan, went from standard American to vegan and then later got into raw food? That's kind of like a path that we often do, right? So I started eating the junk food vegan stuff, and my performance still got better. After going vegan, I ran my first 50 miler, okay? But then after going more whole food plant-based, I started getting a lot better. Shed a little bit of body weight. There's not that much to lose, but we're gonna talk about body weight with nutrition as well, which is really, really important for your performance. So we're gonna spend a good amount of time on that here. And then once I started going more raw, that's when things started kicking in. My fastest times in most distances, 50K, 50 mile, 12-hour, 100 mile, these are all off of completely raw watermelon juice, orange juice, just exclusively for a 50-mile run, just juice. The only one doing it, and it works pretty well. I've taken huge amounts of time off just from that. So when I work with my clients, I coach runners, but they come to me, they're normally between 40 and 60, and it's about 60% women. They're all serious about running, but they're looking for a giant level up in their training. So I'm gonna share a couple visuals here. Okay, this is kind of how I think about it. And I do have a book as well, which I can share with you after. What are the limiters of your performance? So there's maybe a lot of things. The weather could be off on a certain day. You could have a sprained ankle or something. These are gonna limit your performance, and we'll put those down here in the infinitely long list. But there's really 3 things that are super, super, super important for your performance. And this would be in endurance running, but really any sport and maybe anything that you're gonna do. So at the top, so this is most important. The limiter of your performance is actually how you think. So I call this mindset or emotion set. Anybody know who Eliud Kipchoge is? Okay. Arguably the greatest distance runner who's ever lived. But a few years ago, he did this amazing feat of endurance. He broke the 2-hour barrier in the marathon. Now, it's kind of interesting because 2 years before that, he tried to break 2 hours in the marathon. He did it at this thing called the Nike Breaking 2 Project, and he ran 2 hours flat in 30 seconds or something, and he missed it. Sort of, but all he did was measure prematurely. It's not that he failed. So when he came back 2 years later and he actually did it, there was a press conference and they asked him, what's different this time? Do you have a different coach? Is your training different? You're going to get faster. How'd you get faster? And he said, coaching is the same, training is the same. Now the thinking's different. There was absolute certainty. So I kind of like this term. I steal it from Tony Robbins. Absolute certainty. You a fan of Tony? Yeah, okay. We'll talk more. Okay. Yeah, me too. I've done all the live events. It's fantastic. Okay, if you have absolute certainty, and this doesn't just have to be with your race. Remember, I said this can apply to any sport. This can apply to anything in your life. So if you have an injury that you're wanting to overcome, you need to be absolutely certain that you can overcome it. And then below you opens up a whole bunch of ideas, new ideas that you can undertake, new therapies. I've had runners who have had knee surgery. They can't run. We put them on this thing called an Alter-G treadmill, which like it puts suction from your waist down to your feet, and it basically makes you weigh less. And they can run. The doctor said they couldn't run. We got them running. Okay, because when you're absolutely certain that there's a way to do it, you'll find new tools. So we'll skip that for a second because this one's really, really important. Come to here. This is your actual training. So it matters. If you play tennis, you got to train. If you want to be a great golfer, you got to train. Duh, of course, right? But let's think about running for a moment. What if you train really, really, really hard, but you're 100 pounds overweight? Or if you train really hard, but you don't believe it can be done. You've heard of the story of the first sub 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister. So leading up to this first sub 4-minute mile, the times got pretty close. They got down to like 4:08, and nobody broke that for a decade or two. And then these two guys, one from Australia and one from the UK, they were getting dangerously close. And the way the story goes is like nobody thought they could break the 4-minute mile until they did. Well, these guys did. They knew that there was a guy, John Landy, in Australia, and Roger Bannister. These guys knew that they could break it. It just came down to opportunity. They had both run about 4:01, and they were racing each other to see who could be the first to do it. We need to find a good venue with good weather in a good city with good competition. And it was just a race to see who could execute on that first. So if they weren't certain about it, they could train as hard as they want, and nobody had done it. It's a barrier. Your heart's going to explode if you run sub 4. This is, I call it lifestyle. So for now, we're going to say nutrition, because nutrition is kind of like the biggest part of your lifestyle. But there's other things that a lot of people kind of suck at, like sleep, right? If you're not sleeping well, you're not going to recover well. You're just not. But what's like most important beyond that is nutrition. Also drugs, pharmaceuticals, stress. Yeah. There's this weird thing that's new in running recently that runners are taking nicotine, those nicotine pouches. They actually have them at a race that I did in February. They had them at the aid station, like the race is giving them out. It's nuts.
Can of Jolt?
What's that?
Can of Jolt and a nicotine.
There you go. And some bacon and whiskey shots. They literally hand this stuff out. Yeah. So it
just slow you down.
You'd think so, and it does. Yeah, I remember I was doing a 100-mile race about 2 years ago, and I was running with a friend of mine, really good, great runner, but I was eating watermelon juice and raw foods, and he was eating bacon. And every 10 minutes or so for the last half a day, he would throw up. And I'd jog and wait for him, and he'd catch me. And he probably could have beat me because we finished together if he wasn't throwing up. But, you know, that's the difference. So sleep, nutrition, drugs, even like pharmaceuticals, and what runners are doing, nicotine, even caffeine. Anybody regular caffeine users here? A couple? All right. So this is what's going to limit your performance from the ground up. So you got to train, but training doesn't really matter if you're not sleeping, if you're not eating well, if you're overweight, if you're unhealthy, if you're detoxifying. And if you don't believe you can do it, if you don't have a reason why you're doing it. A lot of people say, I want to qualify for the Boston Marathon. Okay, why? Well, my friends did. I want to break 3 hours or 4 hours in the marathon. Well, it's a nice round number. If we don't have a reason, we're not going to do it. So let's zoom in a little bit here on this one. Absolute certainty. The fire of somebody who knows exactly what they're going to do. It's already done in their mind's eye. This is just the formality. Like a really good Olympic champion in any sport. You remember Usain Bolt, greatest sprinter when he walks out onto the track, the other guys, they're like doing this thing, and Usain Bolt comes out and he's smiling, he's waving, he quiets the audience down, he does the lightning bolt, he does all this. We know as an audience that he's going to win. How do you think he feels? I mean, we only know that because he knows it. He doesn't think it. He knows it with absolute certainty. And so he's the greatest of all time. How could nutrition improve your athletics? There's a couple of categories here. Maybe shout some out and we'll see if we can put them into some buckets.
Ease of digestion.
Okay.
Hydration.
Yes. Awesome. Hydration, ease of digestion. What's the one that you told me you want to focus on? Recovery. Yeah. Also, sometimes people take performance enhancing drugs. So performance. So let's start capturing some of these here. We can have some performance. We can have recovery. And hydration is really important too, but it's going to kind of, if you're underhydrated, you're not going to perform well, not recover well. They kind of fall under those categories. We also have your body composition. There's a big one. And then we also have how long you can stay in the sport. So there's a lot of sports where, you know, athletes are at their best, 18, 20, maybe 30 years old, and then we start to go downhill. That's what society says, right? The runners I work with, most of them, they're in their 40s or 50s, and they're running lifetime PRs. In their mid-40s, in their mid-50s, I have a 59-year-old woman who just 2 weeks ago ran a lifetime best in the 1 mile, 5K, 10K in training, not even in racing. And how do we do it? Nutrition. We train her as well, okay? But this is like one of the biggest tools. So we also want to look at longevity. Here's an issue that you might find yourself in that's kind of similar to mine. Now, I travel a lot for races. Just this year, I was in Arizona for a 300-mile race, in the Carolinas, in Tennessee, and in Nevada. And I traveled to Michigan for a food event where I was talking about nutrition and running. And I'm just regularly on the move. And that means relying on public Wi-Fi, cafes, and Airbnbs. That's why I started using a VPN to keep my online world as secure as I can while I'm out there living my best life. And my favorite one is Surfshark. What I love most about Surfshark is that it works on unlimited devices. So you don't have to juggle subscriptions, and they even have some extras like antivirus and anti-data breach. So I just subscribed and it works. So if you're ready to run your next digital life, then go to surfshark.com/run elite, or simply just use the code run elite and you'll get 4 extra months for free. But it gets even better because after that, it's just about $2 a month. And if you don't like it, you have a 30-day money back guarantee. So a big thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. And back to our video. Okay, if you have these 4 things, if you can perform well, you can eat in a way that enhances performance, that's a good thing. And then if you can recover, when people take steroids, steroids aren't making you perform better, they just make you recover better so you can get back to your hard training again. If your body composition is not ideal for your sport, you're not going to do that well. And if you want to get really good at whatever it is, you want to participate for year after year or decade after decade. So we need to stay in it for a long time. So we can do this in no particular order. I actually want to start here, body composition. Okay, what do you think the average percentage of fat is on an elite endurance athlete?
5%.
For men, how about for women? Yeah, so we're taught in sport. I went to school for sports medicine too. I probably should have let you know that at the beginning too. There's like a certain amount of fat that men need and women need. The women need a little bit more. So the textbooks say, sure. But when you look at elite endurance athletes, men and women have about the same body fat percentage. Healthy or not, don't know, but it's down there. It's about 5. You don't need to get to 5. It's very low. They're working out a lot. But body composition, we can agree, maybe if you don't want to get to 5, there's a lot of people who are 25, 30, 40, 45, and it's not really going to work so well for us. So what are some nutrition things that we can do to enhance body composition? What are some principles? Okay, weightlifting. What's Doug Graham here really famous for? 80-10-10? Yeah, okay, all of that. So if you're 80-10-10, you're probably not also eating processed food, right? So one of the principles we can use is 80-10-10. 80% carbohydrate, 10% protein, 10% fat, 10% protein, the way that he talks about it here. When you eat like that, your body composition is going to be where it needs to be based off of your activity level. So last I took my body composition, I was 10%. I don't know if it's accurate or not. I have this device that does it. Seems accurate to me. Yeah, I did it when I was in college and I was 5%. I was 5.3. So I think I'm less than 10. It depends on the device you're using. It doesn't. I haven't done one in a while, but last I did one. The one where you stand on? Yeah, I have one of those. But like you can get a DEXA scan and they like put you in this machine and really like get it dialed in perfect. Okay, body composition. When you have a lower body fat, this is huge. If you are an endurance athlete, this is how I get most of my runners to take an hour off of their time. Not that most people do that, but the ones who do, this is how we do it. We reduce body fat. So there's a couple of principles for this. But why does reducing body fat make you perform better? There's like so many reasons. If you were just a mechanical robot who weighed 100 pounds and we just cut 50 pounds off of you of dead weight, we can all agree you'd go faster, right? So how much faster? You're gonna go about 2.5 to 3 seconds per pound per mile. So that really adds up. If you're doing a marathon or 100 miles or a 200, like really long, that's a whopping amount of time. And that's only 1 pound, 2 to 3 seconds per pound. Does that say, it looks like weird characters that I made up. That says pound. So by reducing body weight, you're gonna just go faster mechanically. But there's other reasons why reducing body weight, especially fat, like I don't want you to lose muscle or bone density. So when I say lose weight, I'm talking about fat specifically, okay? But there's other reasons. Can you think of another reason why losing fat would make you go faster other than you just weigh less?
Not covering the fat's not around the heart.
Okay. Yep. Okay, that's awesome. I haven't thought of that before. We better shave our head then if we're going for that. Okay, that's a big one. Yeah, that's a huge one. So you have less risk of injury. Most injuries in endurance athletics are impact related, overuse injuries. So in running, it would be impact related. But you're gonna have less impact if you weigh less, right? So we have less injury. So we'll say less injury. Boom. So we have free time and mechanically, we have less injury. And then here's a crazy one. This is something you can use in any sport that you're participating in. There's another reason, and that is that your body needs to dissipate heat. So anybody ever read the book Born to Run? It's a very popular book. We got a lot here. Okay. We are arguably, I believe, born to, like anatomically, we are meant to travel long distances on our feet. We're not going to go super deep into this here, but like some of the reasons are the way our Achilles is structured, the way our kneecap is structured, and the fact that we can sweat. We can outrun a horse if it's long enough. We can outrun a deer or an antelope because they can't sweat. They have to pant. We can outrun any animal on the planet, given the distance is long enough and given that it's hot. If it's cold, there are dogs who can outrun us, like the Arctic dogs. Cool, but if it's hot, we're the best. Why? Because we can sweat. So we can take the opposite into effect. If you can't sweat, you can't cool yourself as much and you're gonna shut down. Anybody hear of that persistence hunting idea? I don't buy into it. But the idea is that humans evolved our brain size because we had access to high quality protein from, right. I love that I can talk about this here and it's not like, and goosebumps, look at that. And the idea was that we can track a deer and we can run after it and it'll run away. And then we track it and it'll run away, but it keeps having to stop and it's starting to overheat. And we just keep going until it is exhausted and it lays down and we just go and kill it. It seems like bullshit to me. They've tried to recreate this. There's a documentary on this and they couldn't do it. They used the Bushmen of Africa for like tracking paired with American ultra runners and like they teamed up and they couldn't do it. So I doubt that's true. But the point of that story is that we can sweat. So we actually can, in theory, run down a deer if we could track it. So if you can't cool yourself off because you have extra body fat, you're going to slow down as your local muscle temperature goes up. So if you're going to do a bicep curl, what makes you fail? Like if you go till failure and then you drop the weight, you could shake it off. Just wait 5 seconds and you could probably get one more. If you wait 10 minutes, you can come back. It's not exhausted. When you're running, it's more applicable to running. But if you're just doing bicep curls with like 100 pound and I can only do like 2 or 3, I didn't run out of glycogen that fast. No. Lactic acid is a fuel source, actually. It gets a bad rap, but lactic acid is produced when we don't have enough oxygen available. We make lactic acid, and then that's a fuel source that we can use anaerobically, so it helps us. We have hydrogen ions that start going up, which make our blood acidic. And what's one of the reasons that we're raw? We don't want to do what to proteins and enzymes? Because when we hit a certain temperature, they start to unravel, right? So we have enzymes in our muscles that help you contract and make energy, ATP. And when they get really hot, they stop working and we can't produce energy. And then you cool down. So there's something really cool that you can do here. When you reduce body fat, you also can cool yourself better. And this is really important. We can cool ourselves better. Anybody ever hear of Palmer cooling? Okay, this is gonna blow your mind. This is awesome. There was some research done at Princeton University where they took NFL athletes and they had them do as many dips as they could. And they got whatever numbers they did. They're pretty strong guys, you know. They can do a lot. They're very strong. They had them recover, come back about a week later, and then they did this thing where they had them do a set and then put their hands in a device that runs cool water through the palms of their hands. And then they come back and they do another set. And every other set, not every single set, just every other one, they cooled their palms. And they were able to do 6 times. This is 600%. 6-fold. Okay, if this were a microphone. But they didn't get stronger. They cooled the local musculature. I'm gonna tell you how that works. So why the palms of their hands? You could just cool yourself off by jumping in the lake, right? Or you could go in an ice plunge. If you really want to keep cool, let's have Olympians get in an ice plunge right before their event. Well, that's not gonna work because if you go into cold water, your blood vessels constrict and you can't dissipate heat. You have to expand a blood vessel to dissipate heat, right? So there's a special kind of blood vessel that you have that exists in the palms of your hands, the soles of your feet, and your face above the beard, so like the forehead to here. If it's a hot day and you get some access to cool water, instinctually we know we like splash it on our hands and put it on our face. Why don't we you might put it elsewhere too, but we just put it on our face. It feels good. Instinctually we know this. So the way the blood vessels in your body go is they go from an artery, which is like a big vessel that carries blood with oxygen, and then it gets a little more narrow. It goes into an arterial, and then it turns into a capillary. And then after we use up the oxygen, it goes into a venule, a little bigger, and then a vein, a big one, back to the heart. So it goes big to small. So in our palms and our face and our feet, we don't have to go through that process. We can actually skip the capillary. The capillary is there to like deliver blood to wherever you need it, like actually get the oxygen there. But it has nothing to do with temperature. So if you try to cool your blood and you try to do it at the capillary region, there's not that much surface area. They're small and you don't want to constrict them. But if we can back up one space to the arterial and the venule, those bigger ones, then we can actually cool ourselves off really quick. You can drop your body temperature extraordinarily fast. So Palmer cooling, with that study I just told you about with the NFL guys. You can also do it with your feet, which is way less practical. You can also do it with your face. And I use it, and my runners use it as well. The best place to use this is not in racing because it's hard to acquire cool water. I'll give you a couple hacks you can use, but you can use this most effectively in training. So if you wanted to do anything in training, let's talk about runners for a second, but then we'll pick a sport, okay? If you want to run one lap on a track, 400 meters, and you want to repeat it at a fast pace again and again and again, maybe you can do 10 of them, 12 of them, and then you're kind of tired. You're slowing down. But if you can cool your blood by a small amount in between those reps, you can do more training sets. So when you otherwise would have failed at 10, you can get 15. So you get a bigger training effect, and that'll make you a better athlete. Triathlons, you can really hack this in triathlons because when you're on the bike, you can actually hold a device, and they make devices that you can hold. Soccer is a good one. Anything that's like skill-based, like archery or something, it kind of doesn't matter because you're not maxing out the muscles. But if you're trying to do something that's intense, tennis, pickleball, shot put, rock climbing, I don't know how rock climbers train. I assume you take a lot of time. You do something and then you rest for a long time. If your goal is to get back at the wall as quick as you can, then this will get you back to the wall. The protocol is
like 30 seconds.
You can do it as long as you want. You'll just get cooler. But you know, if you're like in a race, you're not going to stop. So the key with this is that you don't want to cause a vasoconstriction. So do not use ice water. Do not use ice. Just cool. If you're kayak racing, but if you can afford the energy to do so, just drag your hand in the water and then drag your hand in the water every like minute or two. A little bit cool, and the moisture on your hand will help evaporate. I don't know if that'll work. Yeah, you don't want to be inefficient with your paddle though. So the only way you could do it there is have a paddle that has a cooling device in it. Yeah, well they make that. They make it for cyclists. They make a handlebar that has a cooling device in it. So here's a couple ways that I've done this. There was a 50-mile race that I was doing in Virginia a couple years ago. Okay, during this race, I was crushing it, like trying to win this thing. I didn't win it. I think I got 4th. But I was like duking it out to try to like win this. The guy in front of me, we were running together for about 30 miles and he started to pull ahead. He was just more fit than I was. Until we got to an aid station where they had ice. And I knew about this. So you don't want to take ice and just hold it because you're going to get vasoconstriction. So it goes ice, ice, face, ice, ice, face. And then I'll just like, when my hands start to get cold, I just put it in my hat. When they warm up a little, I take it out. Ice, ice, move it so it doesn't vasoconstrict and then put it in my hat. It melts fast. But every time I did this, we'd go into an aid station, I'd get the ice, and then I would catch the guy. And then I would start overheating and he would pull away. Next aid station, I get the ice and I would catch him. And this happened for like 20 miles. And he said to me, like, how do you keep catching me? And I said, I told him about this because we ran together for like 10 minutes. Then he started doing it. And then he beat me by like 10 minutes. So another way to do this is a can of juice. You can get a can of beet juice, a can, it's not raw, but you get the point. This is really, really an amazing tool that you can use in your training, regardless of your sport, provided that you have to do a hard bout and repeat it. It's not like it hurts to have cooling here, but if you look at elite runners now, at the start of like the Boston Marathon or the New York City Marathon, you don't see runners with neck things, you see them with headbands. And this is only recent in the last few years since this was discovered. And right on the top of their head, they have cool water and like a gel that conducts heat away. The fastest way to cool yourself down would be to get in cool water. Yeah, not cold water, cool water. And if you don't have access to submerge your body, hands, face, bottoms of the feet. I've done that too in races before where I don't have access to these things. At an aid station, I'll have cold cans of pineapple or beet juice, and then I just hold them in my hands because metal is a good conductor. And then when they warm up, you get some fuel. Performance, we'll go to performance and recovery here. For performance, you want to be able to deliver blood, be it endurance athletes or whatever sport. You want a shot put, you better have, this is why we warm up, right? We warm up to get ourselves neuromuscularly, but also get our blood flowing where it needs to for like a shot put, right? We want to warm up these muscles. So if we want to deliver more blood, what's the principle of nutrition that we really want to follow? We talked about low fat here a bit. Nitric oxide. Has everybody heard of nitric oxide? Does anybody not know what nitric oxide is? When you eat, so we're going to put this here. We're going to put nitric oxide. We're going to take these and get specific foods and put them into a bucket as well. So you're going to have something you can walk away with, okay? But we want to know the principle first, and then we'll take Q&A. So nitric oxide, you're going to make nitric oxide when you eat, let's say, a green, like arugula, for example. And it has nitrates in it. You're going to put it in your mouth, you're going to chew it up, and it mixes with an enzyme on your tongue. These mix together, they go into your stomach. It takes about 30 to 40 minutes. By the time it hits your intestine where we absorb stuff, it makes nitric oxide. And nitric oxide goes into your blood and it does a number of things, but the thing we're most care about for performance is that it allows your blood vessels to dilate. Yes, and be flexible. So that's good for our heart health, which is good for longevity, right? You don't have a healthy heart and blood vessels, you're not going to be in your sport, whatever the sport, very long. But during the actual competition or practice, we want to deliver blood flow, so we need nitric oxide. Can we name some foods that are high in nitric oxide? Yes. Any others? Yep. Spinach. Yep. Beets and spinach are, I think, 5th and 6th, or 4th and 5th highest nitrate foods. So they're very good. Anybody know number 1 or 2? Kale. Kale's not on the top 10, but it's still good for sure. Arugula is number 1. I only know the top 10, so I'm sure that those are beneficial. But arugula is number 1. Funny enough, number 2 is actually rhubarb. Dr. Greger, nutritionfacts.org. I interviewed him a couple years ago, and I didn't know this, but he said chew on fennel seeds to get nitric oxide. Arugula is number 1, rhubarb is number 2, spinach is, I think, number 5, and then beets and beet greens are 4 and 6 on both sides of those. So let's capture a couple of these foods while we have it. We can rewrite this later if we want. So this is going to be, we'll give ourselves more room. This is going to be our bucket of food up here. So we'll put nitric oxide here. Okay, so we have arugula, we have beets, and we have the beet greens associated with them. We have spinach. We'll stop there for nitric oxide. Those are good foods to eat. The more you eat, the longer you eat, the better. So there's research mostly with cyclists. They've done this with runners as well, but cyclists are easier to control in the lab. So they have people go on a cycle and they put them at a constant rate and they just go until they die and fall off, basically, until they can't go anymore. It's called a time to exhaustion trial. So they've done this with cyclists and they give them watercress. They've done it with beets. They've done it with spinach. They've been repeated with at least those 3. They've done it with watermelon as well. And they'll have a control group where they don't receive any of those foods. They get a placebo, like a red sugary beverage as opposed to beet juice. Then they'll give people spinach or beets for 1 day right before, so like 20 minutes before, and they have an improvement in their time to exhaustion by about 7%, which is a lot. But those who had it for every day for 6 days leading up to it had a 13% improvement, which is like even more. So that would suggest to us that you just want to have healthy blood vessels every day of your life, right? But there's research on this with half marathoners, cyclists, back to back. This has been done with time trials done on one day and then repeated on the next day. That'll bring us to recovery in a second. What else for performance? Let's get one more. Anybody know what citrulline is? We all love watermelon here, right? I love watermelon.
That's in the rind, right?
It's in the rind. It's in the whole melon, but particularly in the rind. I won't go too much into citrulline here, but just know that citrulline breaks down into nitric oxide eventually. So it's like a backdoor way to get more of the same thing. Watermelon and yellow watermelon has 6 times the amount. So if you can find yellow watermelon, kind of hard to find. How about foods for recovery? Before you shout anything out, look at these again. For recovery, don't we need our blood flow to continue? So these are for performance and for recovery. We can add citrulline here, citrulline from watermelon. Quick callback, all of my best times in the 50K, 50 mile, 12 hour, they're all off of watermelon juice. That's it. Maybe a couple dates, if it's organic. I normally just thinly shave off the green part and keep all the white and then just juice that whole thing.
You do that before an ultra marathon?
Yep. I do that a lot in my life, but if I'm running a 50-mile race, I'm just juicing the night before a whole bunch of watermelon, stashing it, and that's what I'm having.
You drink coconut water when you're going?
Not really. I'm not against it. If they have it and it's raw, it's kind of hard to get raw coconut water, at least for me. You can buy the pasteurized stuff. I don't want that. Okay, what else for recovery? We need steak for protein, right? Okay, what about, this is 2 categories here. We're going to talk about oxidative stress and inflammation. Let's talk about inflammation because we all know exactly what that is. If we have inflammation secondary to a workout that we did, it's going to impede our recovery. Maybe a lot. Maybe the inflammation's so bad that you're injured and you're not working out again. So inflammation is something that we want to, it's a natural response. We don't want to get rid of inflammation, but we want to be able to effectively handle it and get out of it. So anybody know what DOMS is? Hey, Dr. Hill, what are you doing?
Oh, I'm just reading a book.
What book are you reading?
It's called Run Elite, Train and Think Like the Greatest Runners of All Time.
Oh, that looks pretty good. It's actually the book that I wrote. Now, if you want to learn more evidence-based scientific principles that you can use in order to accelerate your running, you can pick up a copy on Amazon. I wrote it myself. I recorded the audio myself as well. If you prefer audiobook, you can pick up your copy today. The reviews speak for themselves. Anybody know what DOMS is? DOMS in sports. Yeah. So there's this thing in sports when you work out and then you get sore, not just the day of, but like the day after, 2 days after. Delayed onset muscle soreness. So spinach has been very well studied on reducing delayed onset muscle soreness. We could probably repeat it with a bunch of other foods, but why spinach? Because it does, nitric oxide. More blood flow, better recovery. Okay, so for inflammation, aside from like some synthetic drug or something like that, which I don't recommend, I don't think anybody's doing that, the most anti-inflammatory thing that can pass your lips is fiber. Is anybody aware of the research done on the number one correlate, the number one predictor of if you'll live to 100 years old or not? Fiber from beans. Beans are the best predictor of if you're going to make it to 100 or not. So take with that from you what you will. If you want to stay raw, well, you're not going to eat raw beans. We don't have the population to look at fruitarians who reach 100 in a large-scale study. The point is that you want to get a lot of fiber. And in the general worldwide population, the people who are getting the most fiber happen to be those who eat lots of beans, especially like Okinawa, some of the blue zones. But the take-home point is not to eat beans. The take-home point is lots of fiber, wherever you're going to get it from. Okay, beans are just particularly high in fiber for their weight, not per calorie, but by weight. They're super, super high in fiber. If you eat completely raw fruits and vegetables, you're going to get so much fiber, but that's very anti-inflammatory. Okay, so we could say beans, but I'm going to take it with, I'll say fiber instead. The actual research says beans, but we now understand that a little further. What about oxidative stress? When you work out at all for more than 20 minutes, so if you just walk, it's okay. But if you raise your heart rate to about 140 beats a minute and you sustain that for more than 20 minutes, you've gone from a beneficial stress where your body can like recover. You get a little bit of stress, your body super compensates. You get more fit. You go more than 20 to 30 minutes, you start accumulating some damage in your body, oxidative stress. It's not, you get more fit too. but you have some oxidative stress. So what would combat oxidative stress and improve your recovery by a lot, a huge amount? The key word here is antioxidants. That's how we remedy this, antioxidants. Moderate cardio. So I'll define that as 140 beats a minute. If you're walking, it's okay. But if you run, if your heart rate's up, playing basketball, swimming, cycling, yeah, it's still a good thing to do. It'll still improve your health, but it's also an oxidative stress. So we want to have antioxidants, which are going to come from, well, lots of greens. We have some of them listed here, dark leafy greens, but name out some of your favorite ways to plow some antioxidants. Yeah, berries. Yeah, colors because the anthocyanins that make something that makes a blueberry blue or a sweet potato red is the anthocyanins, which are a form of antioxidants, or yellow watermelon. Now there's more, there's other ways you can do this, that you can get more antioxidants. What about beverages? Tea. If you're raw, I don't know if you want to have tea or not. I still drink tea, occasionally coffee even, but green tea. Yeah, lots of different kinds of tea. Green tea is a good one, black tea. Those are the two highest antioxidant teas that I'm aware of, green tea and black tea. But the caffeine, I actually have a hack for that. Does anybody enjoy caffeine, like caffeinated tea or coffee? Are we all off caffeine, or do we have some who want to keep it? I can give you a hack for it. Okay, this hasn't been tested. This is my hypothesis here, but Caldwell Esselstyn, a lot of you probably know who he is, right? He had a presentation where he was talking about research that was done on artery function and caffeine. And essentially, they did this with coffee to start, okay? So caffeinated coffee, you had some amount of damage to your endothelial cells, which you can maybe reverse or prevent with nitric oxide, maybe. But there was some damage. They did this with a blood pressure cuff. It was in Italy. They did a blood pressure cuff, had the caffeine, then took it off and see how quickly the blood will return to your forearm here. Those who had caffeine, much slower, okay? But those who had decaf coffee, no effect. But you want your caffeine. Okay, so they did it again with green tea, no effect. So I hypothesize, this is just me, that if you have decaf coffee and you brew it with green tea, you get your coffee and your caffeine at the same time, and you don't hurt your endothelial cells. True or not, I don't know, but the research would support that. One final thing on longevity here, so we round that out, and then we'll do whatever questions that you have. There's a compound called spermidine. You heard of spermidine? Okay. It's making the news a lot more recently because it's pretty impactful. So there are a group of mammals, different kinds of moles that we studied of their ages, like why some live longer than others. And there's this one kind of mole that's called the immortal mole. And it lives something like 30 times longer than all other moles. And it's like, why does this happen? And they found that it's producing a lot of this thing called spermidine. Funny name for it. It was discovered in sperm, but it's not like particularly high there. That's where it was discovered. But there's a group of foods that we sometimes eat that are super high in spermidine. In fact, the oldest organisms in the world are mycelium, like fungus. I think we've found one that's 10,000 years old. I think a mycelium that's alive that's 10,000 years old. Okay, super high in spermidine. They also can live basically in perpetuity unless something eats them or burns them down or something because of spermidine. So of the pathways of aging, there are 12 pathways of aging. And you've probably heard of some of these. Anybody hear of like NMN or NAD plus or any of these drugs, that rapamycin, these drugs that you can take for longevity? Okay, pros and cons to them, but none of them work on all 12 pathways of aging, except spermidine. Spermidine works on all 12. It's the only one that we know of. And we can get it in our food. We don't have to take a synthetic drug. So foods that are high in spermidine. Okay, foods high in spermidine are mushrooms or tempeh. Tempeh because it's fermented. So if you had tofu, you're not going to get it. So anything fermented, tempeh is very high in it. Or my favorite one is sprouts. It's also in broccoli. It's also in cauliflower, a lot of cruciferous vegetables as well. And then one that I put in my smoothies almost daily is wheat germ. I get raw wheat germ. If it's actually raw, I don't know. I put a tablespoon in my smoothie. I put mushroom powder and I put sprouts all in my morning smoothie as well. I'm 104 years old and I look like this. Any questions on anything? Ask me about endurance performance, anything we talked about here, more food recommendations, what kinds of gut troubles, like poo, gas. Okay, when you get into the ultra distances, gut issues sometimes just happen for different reasons than if you have gut issues in like a marathon. That's probably coming from a different place. I sometimes get gut issues in long races. The best I can figure from those is that it's the sheer quantity that you're intaking, which is why I go to juice and dates. And sometimes I do cooked vegan food because I just need the calories to smash it in. And if you don't want to, well, you need a calorie dense.
I do the dates if I have no choice.
If you have no choice, but this is a situation where you get into that.
After about 50 miles, man, I'm done with it.
Me too. I could blend them or something. Bananas work really well. The point is, when you're on a whole food plant-based or a raw diet, your volume of food coming in is so gargantuan in 100 mile, just piling it in, that's a lot for your stomach to handle. So if you get some distress, one thing that you can do, not for health, but purely for performance, I learned this from Michael Arnstein. Anybody know him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Ultra runner, fruitarian. He runs into this a lot. He'd eat avocados and dates in 100 milers and he'd get bloaty. So he's like, I got to stop doing that. I'm going to take gels, sport gels. Now, he's not going to recommend that for life, but for performance. So how do you, sport gel is going to make you blow up. You take a gas with it. I'm not telling you to take a sports gel, but you want to find a way to get more calories with less volume, less digestive cost. So juice is good. Blend your dates. Bananas are awesome. 100 calories in a banana, that's a lot. There's this saying in ultra running that I don't think is true, but it's like a saying that goes back many years that says, ultra runs are a eating competition because the person who's going to win is the one who can get the most calories in and just keep going for days and days. So I started to train myself to take 100 calories per mile, which is like ridiculous amount. My first 100 miler, I did this up through mile 30. I had 3,000 calories before mile 30. It was too much. And I was feeling sluggish. It was healthy food, but I was like, just, my body couldn't digest it all. But I tried to keep eating. At mile 70, I said, screw this, not one more bite. I didn't eat one more bite. My energy came way back up, picked up the pace. There you go. So if your body is clean, you probably don't need as much fuel as you think. Because as you go slower, right, we run out of glycogen. You run out of glycogen at relatively high intensities. 90 minutes, 2 hours. In an ultra, 100 miles, you're not going to easily run out of glycogen. Your body's going to burn a much higher percentage of fat. So you don't have to eat as much. We have enough stored, even I have enough stored fat to run 200 miles, 2,000 miles probably, and I'd get tired, I'd get whatever, but it's literally there as fuel. So I would suggest eating less, maybe eating later. Just eat like less food total and spread it out more. So like eat later. The amount of food you eat by 30 miles, maybe eat that amount by 50 miles next time.
Do you have a sense of how many pounds of fat you burn in like 100 miles here?
Well, you can do the math on this. At someone who's roughly our weight, you're going to burn roughly 100 calories per mile on flat terrain. So we can up that. 100 is very conservative. 3,500, this isn't true, really. This is just like roughly 3,500 calories. So 35 miles, you're going to lose a pound. Portion of that's going to be of fat, but that's all just like back of the notebook, back of the envelope calculations. So in a 100 mile, you might lose 3 pounds of fat. That's based off of like old calculations. I mean, you can lose more weight because you're also dehydrated and you lose your glycogen. Glycogen stores with it water, a lot of water. So when you burn through your glycogen, you lose all that weight and you lose all the water with it. So you just drop weight a ton.
I felt like it was more like 4 or 5 pounds.
Yeah, sounds about right. In 100 miles. Yeah, because it's not flat. If you're in the mountains, it's going to be more than 3. So 4 or 5. Okay.
Probably had this.
I wanted to talk about like legumes and about like what's your favorite one, and also are you preparing them the correct way, like soaking them and possibly doing something that would metabolize these anti-nutrients.
Sprout and cook. I make homemade soy milk. I'll tell you how I make my soy milk.
How you process?
Sure. I order a giant bag of soybeans, organic soybeans. When I want to have some soy milk, I get a big mason jar and I pour like a cup or so in there and I just soak them for a day, strain them out. And then just like you would with any other sprout, you just give it water, soak it, swish it around, dump it out. If they stay wet, they're going to get like moldy.
So you sprout it for like a day or two?
Like 3 days.
Until you have like a little bit of a drip.
Tail, yeah. And then I juice them. I put them through my Nama J2, which is a great juicer.
Yeah.
Seriously, like worth mentioning, Nama J2. Or the J3, which I haven't used. Juice them. Then I have all the soy milk. Then you have to cook it because of the lectins. But you've reduced the lectins quite a bit by sprouting. But I cook it then. I don't get it to boiling. I do it at as low a temperature as I can, like below boiling, and then I just leave it for like 20 minutes. If you boil, I think you need to, it's like 15 minutes or so. If you do a lower temperature, you can do it longer. You can do a much lower temperature for like all day. I do below a boil for like, okay. Antioxidants, fiber, so lots of berries. Okay, this is a cool hack that you can use as well. I told you that it's 20 to 30 minutes before you get the oxidative stress because you have enough antioxidants stored in like your skin, in your body to make it not oxidative stress, right? But if you're gonna run or work out longer than that, you can like prime yourself by, before you begin your workout, have high antioxidant foods. Not a lot of calories, because you might want to be fasted. You can have a handful of berries, you can have green tea, some turmeric, ginger, something like that, a little bit to get your antioxidants like up even more. Now, you can go longer, depends how much you ate. And then right when you come back, let's have like a berry smoothie.
What was the best time after workout?
Oh yes, okay, this is great. Yeah, great question. You replenish your glycogen in 2 phases. So as you work out, lifting, running, whatever it is, glycogen, if anybody doesn't know, glycogen is like just complex stored sugar that is in your muscles and your liver, and we use it for fuel. You use it up, it's going lower and lower. So at the end of your workout, one of the best predictors for your recovery is how quickly you can get your glycogen levels back up. So if you do a marathon or an ultra, a lot of people get sick afterward. Their glycogen is really low, your immune system's compromised. So you want to get your glycogen back up as quick as you can. It comes in 2 phases. The first phase, you're going to store about 6 times as much glycogen as you are in your second, and the first phase is up to 40 minutes after you complete. So you have a window from like 0 to 40 minutes where you're going to absorb a lot of glycogen, and you have a window for recovery right there. That's quite high. After that, you're going to synthesize glycogen in your body much more slowly. You still will, but it's going to be about 1/6 the rate. So you want to smash in some calories after your workout, high carbohydrate, because you want the glycogen. You want fructose and glucose. What's fruit made of? Fructose and glucose. Perfect, food, right? Your question is, if you eat during, do you still have the higher rate? The answer is yes. Yes. And once you start to lower your heart rate and go into recovery, it slows down a lot, right? So you have that window after and during as well. So if you just go for a 10-minute jog, you're fine. You give a little bit of a stress to your body, but it's not going to hurt you. You'll recover from it. If you go beyond 20 to 30 minutes, you still get a benefit, but you're starting to get oxidative stress too. So if you stop 20, 25 minutes, whatever, you're good. You don't even need to eat. You probably should, but there's no oxidative stress. If you go longer than that, you want to have a lot of antioxidants to combat the stress that you've experienced from your training. Okay. I'm happy to talk with you guys as long as you want. Stick around, but officially we're going to end. I don't know if there's anything coming out here still. If you'd like to learn more about what I do, what I teach, or some information, I'll give you a copy of my book if you want. I have a YouTube channel as well. It's called Run Elite. Thank you so much. Thank you. Are you asking what time of the day for you to do your workout?
Yes. If it's
Morning is totally fine. Yeah. What kind of workout?
just a workout. Just a workout.
If you're going to go really hard, you probably want to have a little bit of sugar before. And you don't even need to, your body will do this thing where when it thinks it's going to run out of energy, it'll shut you down early. So you can trick your body. You don't even need to eat the sugar and deliver it to the muscles. You have receptors in your mouth that if they just taste sweet, your brain won't shut your muscles down. So there's some research where they took athletes and had them take sugar water and swish it in their mouth and spit it out. And they still had a performance gain.
Okay.
So maybe just a little bit of, if you're going to go hard, if you're going to go easy,
Okay.
fast is fine.
Just watch for that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much.
Are you selling your books?
Yeah. I've got 2 more. Let me turn my camera off real quick.